With Constantinople behind them, the Crusaders still had over 1,000 miles of hostile territory to cross before they reached Jerusalem. After only a few weeks, in May 1097, they reached their first enemy-held city. Nicaea, today known as Iznik, had once been a Byzantine city. But 20 years earlier, it had been seized by Turkish warlords and was now the fortress capital of the new Sultan, Kilij Arslan.
Over the northern hills is where the Crusader army came from. They marched down from Constantinople over the hills and fanned out round the city, clamping it in an iron siege. Finally the moment of conflict, and they must have been pretty excited, pretty hepped up. This was the enemy. This is where it's all going to start.
Breaking their way into Nicaea would not be easy. A thick 3-mile-long circuit wall enclosed 3 sides of the city.
Attacking a city like this is really pretty difficult because these walls are very formidable. You can see them here, 10 meters high roughly, the towers here 30 meters apart. That means whatever way you approach the wall, people have got you in their sights as a very good, very easy target.
For 6 weeks, the Crusaders besieged Nicaea. The fighting was intense, but morale in the Christian camp was high. They were on the verge of their first victory. Though the Crusaders had promised to return the city to the Byzantine Emperor Alexius' control, they expected to keep the riches of Nicaea for themselves. But their Byzantine allies were about to pull the rug from under their feet. Along the western flank of the city lay the great Ascanian Lake. Here, early on June the 18th, 1097, emissaries of the Byzantine Emperor initiated a secret plan to take the city and its spoils for themselves.
The Byzantines had brought their ships onto the lake to help in the siege, but they used their ships for a quite different purpose. They secretly contacted the Turks within the city. They would much sooner surrender peacefully to the Byzantines than be chopped up into little pieces by the Crusaders, who were obviously thirsting for their blood. And when morning breaks, there on the battlements of the city are the imperial flags flying. The city has surrendered.
The sight of the Byzantine imperial banner flying above the city walls incensed the Crusader army. They had been double-crossed by their so-called Christian brother, Emperor Alexius.
When Alexius did that deal with the Turks and took Nicaea for himself, the Crusader army felt utterly betrayed. They were furious. The man who they trusted, who was supposed to be their ally, who they would have to trust on the future fights through Turkey and into the Holy Land, had gone behind their backs. This was a very, very bad sign for the future of the Byzantine Crusader alliance.
Robbed of the spoils of Nicaea, the Crusaders packed up their camp and ventured deeper into enemy territory, heading towards Jerusalem. But they were not alone. From the hills, the Turkish Sultan, Kilij Arslan, shadowed their every step. He had just lost his fortress city. Now he wanted revenge.
Kilij Arslan, mindful of the injury done him, constantly brooded over the fact that through the Christians he had lost the excellent city of Nicaea. With all his heart he yearned to retaliate and determined to lay an ambush for his enemy.
The Turkish leader would unleash the full force of his army, perhaps as many as 50,000 men. Scouting the land just ahead of the Crusader army, he found the perfect site for a surprise attack. The epic clash that took place here became part of Crusader lore. It is known as the Battle of Dorylaeum. At dawn, on July the 1st, 1097, tens of thousands of Turks mounted a head-on attack against Bohemon's vanguard force camped alone on the valley bed. Now, on his favoured site for the battle, Professor Franz can see exactly how the epic struggle unfolded.
They were all mashed up in the camp here by the jeep, desperately trying to get their defences up, and charging up at them, up the valley floor, are the Turks.
For one man who fought at Dorylaeum, it was a day he would never forget.
Bohemond said to his men, "Gentlemen, brave soldiers of Christ, you can see that we are encircled and that a hard battle lies ahead. Therefore let all knights go out like men and meet the enemy."
The Crusaders had been caught off guard by the dawn attack. As Turkish cavalry streamed through their camp, they fought desperately to save the battle. For the Crusaders, it was a new kind of enemy they faced, and a new style of warfare. These riders relied on speed, powerful bows, and hit-and-run tactics.
Seljuk Turks were really first-class archers and very courageous. They attack very quickly. They're very light, unlike the Western European knights. They have smaller horses. They don't carry too much armors. They were really clever in shooting arrows from the back of the horse, riding at a very fast speed.
This startling new tactic was decimating Bohemon's vanguard force of 20,000 men. But mounted archers were not the only surprise the Turks had in store.
The Turks surrounded us on all sides, throwing darts, casting javelins, and shooting arrows from an astonishing range.
Just how the Turks attacked from such range has never been understood. But buried away in a little-known Muslim text of the time, Dr. Taif al-Azhari has discovered an obscure reference written in ancient Arabic that may solve the mystery. The Nakia.
The Nakia were a battalion inside the Turkish army of arrow foot soldiers. The soldier lay down with his back to the ground, and he used a huge bow with both muscles of his legs and fired a couple of 100 meters away. Sometimes in the sources we have stories like the sunlight disappeared for a couple of seconds because of the sheer number of the arrows.
Bohemond had already lost hundreds of men, and now the Turks were closing in for the kill. Desperately, he ordered his men to hold the lines around the camp. But from beyond the valley, help was at hand.
The greater part of the army, under those illustrious and splendid men, Duke Godfrey, his brother Baldwin, and other warriors devoted to God, was advancing swiftly to the aid of their brethren.
With the armies of Godfrey and Baldwin pouring into the valley, the Crusader force swelled to more than 50,000 men.
The Turks found themselves, potentially at least, between an anvil and a hammer. And rather than face that, they broke and fled, very sensibly.
The sheer size of the Crusader army had defeated the Turks.
But it has to be said, the Turks fought brilliantly. Who would ever have praised so much the Turks, said one of the Crusaders, who were such fine soldiers, and had they been but Christians, would have been the equal of us.
The Crusaders believed they were now invincible. One confidently wrote home to his wife to say they should all be at the gates of Jerusalem in 5 weeks. But in just over a month, hundreds more Crusaders would have fallen, and they would still be many miles from the Holy City. And it was only then that the worst horrors of the First Crusade would be unleashed.